See? I mean, no, no.
The golden age of Hollywood sold audiences a glittering illusion, stars who weren't just beautiful, but brilliant and refined. Yet behind the cameras, many stars revealed shocking gaps in knowledge that the studios worked hard to hide. From not being able to follow even the simplest plots to genuinely wondering if Abraham Lincoln was real, the contrast between image and reality was staggering. Today we're pulling back the curtain on 10 beloved Hollywood stars who were celebrated on screen, but surprisingly clueless off it. And before we begin, drop a like if you love vintage Hollywood and share your favorite classic stars in the comments. Judy Garland may have been one of the most gifted performers in Hollywood history, but behind her soaring voice and radiant screen presence was a woman whose limited education left her with shocking gaps in basic knowledge. Signed to MGM at just 13, Garland spent her formative years on studio lots, where the bare minimum tutoring she received focused only on satisfying child labor laws. As a result, she entered adulthood with little real schooling and glaring holes in her understanding of the world. Those who worked with her recalled moments that left colleagues stunned. She once asked if Australia was located in Europe and seemed baffled when told it wasn't. During the filming of Easter Parade, she reportedly had to ask when Easter occurred, genuinely confused about why it didn't fall in December with Christmas. Math was an even bigger struggle. Despite earning millions, Garland never understood percentages, which fueled her lifelong money problems. One business manager remembered trying to explain that 10% of $100,000 was $10,000, only for Judy to stare blankly, unable to grasp it. Her gullibility made her easy prey for handlers and doctors who peddled miracle treatments. While Judy's emotional intelligence shone on screen, her lack of basic knowledge made her tragically vulnerable off it. Lana Turner rose from obscurity to become one of Hollywood's most glamorous icons, but her beauty often distracted from a shocking lack of basic understanding. Discovered as a teenager at a soda fountain, Turner was thrust into stardom with little formal education. MGM knew her limitations and quietly assigned secretaries to handle tasks that required reading, writing, or even simple arithmetic. Scripts were color-coded and simplified to help her keep up, and still she often misunderstood plot points. Directors remembered afternoons wasted trying to explain concepts she simply couldn't grasp. While filming The Postman Always Rings Twice, Turner struggled to understand why her character would be upset about her husband's infidelity, repeatedly asking, why would she care what he does when she isn't around? Geography was another blind spot. She once asked if Acapulco was in Italy, then wondered aloud if she could drive there for the weekend from Los Angeles. Her confusion carried into finances as well. Despite being one of the highest-paid stars of her time, she was constantly broke. Turner once signed a contract for $5,000 a week and insisted she would be getting that amount every single day. That kind of misunderstanding, paired with her lavish spending, left her perpetually in debt. Bela Lugosi's haunting performance as Count Dracula made him one of the most iconic stars of early Hollywood, but behind the cape and accent was a man who often seemed lost outside of scripted lines. Born in Hungary, Lugosi never fully mastered English and frequently memorized dialogue phonetically without understanding what he was actually saying. Cruise recalled how he could deliver his lines perfectly, but if asked to explain them in his own words, he would stare blankly. His struggles went far beyond language barriers. Lugosi often blurred fiction with reality, once protesting during a shoot that his character couldn't be killed because, as he insisted, "I am Dracula. Dracula cannot die." Directors and writers had to spend hours breaking down the most basic plot points, often with little success. Financially, he was just as vulnerable. Lugosi once sold the rights to his likeness for a mere $1,000, not realizing the long-term value. Those rights later generated millions, none of which he ever saw. On top of that, he was deeply superstitious. A makeup artist recalled him refusing to step onto a set because he believed the furniture was arranged in a death pattern. Only after a chair was moved did he relax enough to film. Tony Curtis built a career on charisma, good looks, and undeniable screen presence, but colleagues often joked that his talent ended when the cameras stopped rolling. Despite delivering complex dialogue with confidence, Curtis frequently admitted he had no idea what the words meant. A director once compared him to a parrot. He could mimic sounds perfectly, but had little comprehension of what he was saying. His lack of education left him vulnerable to embarrassing moments. During the filming of The Vikings, Curtis asked co-star Kirk Douglas if Vikings were real or just mythical creatures like dragons. Douglas, thinking it was a joke, laughed, until Curtis asked again, entirely serious. Geography was another stumbling block. While filming The Great Race, he confused continents with countries and repeatedly asked which highways they would take to drive from America to France. Curtis also showed questionable judgment when it came to money. Despite earning millions, he often fell for ridiculous investment schemes. A business manager recalled him putting $50,000 into a plan to import sand to Hawaii after hearing at a party that the islands might run out of beach sand. With little curiosity to verify anything, Curtis wasted fortunes on ideas that most people would laugh off. William Holden projected world-weary sophistication in classics like Sunset Boulevard and Network, but those who worked with him often remarked on how little he understood beneath the surface. A director once admitted that Holden could deliver brilliantly written dialogue, but had no idea what it actually meant. To help him grasp metaphors or subtext, some filmmakers resorted to drawing simple cartoons, smiley faces for happy, frowns for sad, so he could understand the emotional beats of a scene. This inability to process abstract ideas extended to the very themes of his films. During production of The Bridge on the River Kwai, Holden seemed unaware the movie was an anti-war story, assuming it was just an adventure about escaping prison. Similarly, while making Network, he reportedly struggled to comprehend why his character felt conflicted about an affair. The director finally simplified it to, "She's bad, your wife is good, and you feel guilty." Holden's difficulties weren't limited to acting. Financially, he once renounced his U.S. citizenship to avoid taxes, not realizing it would create even larger estate issues and travel restrictions down the line. Combined with heavy drinking, which further impaired his reasoning, Holden often appeared far less insightful than the characters he played. Mickey Rooney's career stretched across 9 decades, from child star to respected veteran, but his brilliance on screen often contrasted with a startling lack of basic understanding of it. Despite spending his entire life in Hollywood, Rooney never fully grasped how films were made. Directors recalled his confusion when scenes were shot out of sequence, even into his 60s. He would ask, "How will the audience follow the story if we tell it backwards?" forcing crews to re-explain the process. His struggles extended far beyond filmmaking. During a USO tour in the 1940s, Rooney reportedly asked if Germany and Japan were the same country, unable to comprehend the alliances of World War II. Financial matters were equally baffling. Despite earning millions as one of MGM's top stars, Rooney declared bankruptcy more than once. His accountant explained that Rooney couldn't understand the concept of fixed expenses, asking why he had to pay his mortgage in months when he wasn't working. Rooney also lived in a self-created fantasy world, often speaking about starring roles in projects that didn't exist. Colleagues insisted he wasn't lying. He seemed to genuinely believe these illusions. For all his talent, his inability to connect with reality made him one of Hollywood's most perplexing figures. Jayne Mansfield built her career as the quintessential blonde bombshell, but her real-life contradictions left many baffled. Publicists often claimed she had an IQ of 163 and spoke 5 languages, yet colleagues recalled moments that suggested a shocking lack of basic knowledge. On one occasion, Mansfield earnestly asked whether the sun and the moon were the same thing, just seen at different times of day. Her confusion wasn't limited to science. She once misattributed a quote from Nietzsche to the cartoon character Betty Boop, leaving her co-stars stunned. Even more alarming was her willingness to experiment with dangerous beauty tricks. A makeup artist recalled Mansfield asking if drinking hydrogen peroxide would make her organs blonde, and later admitting she had already tried a small amount. Financially, Mansfield was reckless and frequently in debt despite her fame. She often struggled to grasp the difference between gross and net income, believing she could spend more than she earned without consequences. Publicists admitted she sometimes leaned into her dumb blonde persona for publicity, but the line between act and reality blurred over time. Whether exaggerated or genuine, her bizarre misunderstandings became part of the legend that both boosted her career and contributed to her downfall. George Raft carved out a niche as one of Hollywood's toughest gangsters, but behind the steely image was a man who struggled with even the basics of literacy. Growing up in Hell's Kitchen, Raft left school early, and by the time he entered Hollywood, his reading skills were so limited that he was functionally illiterate. Colleagues revealed that he often couldn't follow scripts at all. Assistants would read his lines aloud, and he would memorize them by repetition, rather than understanding the words on the page. This handicap created endless challenges during production. If a single line was revised, Raft would have to relearn entire scenes from scratch. Plot lines confused him as well. While filming a spy thriller, he reportedly couldn't grasp the idea of a double agent, repeatedly asking which side he was supposed to be on. The most infamous example came when he turned down the lead role in The Maltese Falcon, claiming it didn't make any sense. Humphrey Bogart took the role instead, and the film went on to become a classic. Despite his limitations, Raft sustained a career by sticking to straightforward tough guy roles. His natural charisma and streetwise background made him convincing, even if he didn't fully understand the stories he was telling. Errol Flynn became the ultimate swashbuckling hero in classics like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood, but off-screen he was notorious for his lack of education and basic knowledge. Expelled from multiple schools as a youth, Flynn never completed formal studies and carried that gap with him into Hollywood. A script supervisor once confessed he couldn't even locate Europe on a map, despite being born in Tasmania and having lived in England. Directors quickly learned to simplify his dialogue. Words with more than 2 syllables were often cut from scripts because Flynn couldn't pronounce them properly or didn't understand their meaning. This led to repeated retakes when he stressed the wrong words, delivering lines without any grasp of what he was saying. Crew members recalled countless hours wasted because Flynn was essentially reading sounds rather than interpreting meaning. His memoir, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, only deepened the irony. Although published under his name, it was heavily ghost-written. The writer admitted that Flynn rambled incoherently in interviews, unable to string together a logical narrative. On screen, he exuded quick wit and charm. Off-screen, he once asked a director if New York was in California, and when corrected, wondered aloud if California might actually be inside New York. Joan Blondell was a beloved star of the 1930s and 40s, known for her quick wit and street-smart charm in more than 100 films. Audiences adored her wise-cracking characters, but insiders revealed that Blondell herself often struggled with the simplest concepts. One Warner Brothers director remembered her asking if Abraham Lincoln was a real person or just made up for a movie, leaving the crew speechless. Her gaps in education showed in other ways. Blondell reportedly never learned to read an analog clock, relying instead on others to tell her the time well into adulthood. Math was an even bigger hurdle. A business manager recalled that Blondell couldn't make change for $1. If something cost 75 cents, she simply waited for someone to hand her back a coin rather than calculating it herself. This weakness spilled into her contracts too. When she signed a 7-year deal with Warner Brothers, she genuinely believed it was for 3 years, unable to count the option periods correctly. Despite these challenges, Blondell's exceptional memory saved her career. She could memorize pages of dialogue effortlessly, which made her seem sharp on screen, even if she didn't fully understand what she was saying. In Hollywood, charm and timing often mattered more than intellect, and Blondell had both in spades. The golden age of Hollywood dazzled audiences with stars who seemed larger than life. flawless, glamorous, and endlessly sophisticated. Yet behind the polished images were actors who often revealed stunning gaps in understanding, from being unable to follow the simplest storylines to genuinely questioning whether Abraham Lincoln was real. The studio system didn't need thinkers. It needed faces that could light up a screen and repeat lines convincingly. For Judy Garland, Errol Flynn, Joan Blondell, and so many others, charisma carried them further than intellect ever could. Decades later, their films still entertain millions, proving that in Hollywood, brilliance on screen didn't always require brilliance off it. Drop a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more forgotten Hollywood tales.